The first sound is a dry scratch across glass, like a crooked nail measuring the night. The second is a breath that does not fog the window, though the room is cold. I count to calm myself, and the numbers file in like track marks. 1.1, 1121, 1.12, 1.1. If 3, each a tiny door. Something knocks from the wrong side of the wall, halfway between here and nowhere. If no one is inside, who turned on the light? Why do the walls breathe at midnight? A smell of damp earth swells under the floorboards, and the clock stutters as if worried it will be overheard. The phone camera opens by itself and frames the dark hallway. The autofocus finds a face that isn't there, then blinks and loses it. My name shows up in a whisper on the dusty mirror, written backwards, then wiped by air. Power hums through dead outlets, a bass line under the house slow inhale. When I shut my eyes, the scratch returns nearer than the lids. The final sound is softer than a prayer and sharper than a blade, a second heartbeat beating from the ceiling. Morning does not fix the air, it only peels it back. The scratch has left a thin silver line on the window like a fishbone under skin. The outlets still hum, though the breakers are off, and the clock insists on showing the same minute, no matter how long I stare. When the kettle clicks, steam rises in a shape that looks like a profile caught mid-laugh. And I do not own a kettle with a whistle, yet something sings. The floorboards carry footsteps from room to room without weight, always stopping just behind the chair where I sit to prove I am not afraid. A drawer opens softly and waves a stale scent of ashes. The phone records by itself and plays back breaths that do not match mine, slow and confident, with pauses as if waiting for answers. There is a smudge on the ceiling shaped like a handprint too large for any living hand. I speak into the echo of it, a foolish greeting, and the house replies by making the walls thinner than they were. The voice arrives as a wrong ringtone, a melody like a nursery rhyme played backward. It names the rooms out of order and asks politely to be let in. I try to answer with a lie and hear it repeat my lie in my exact tone, then laugh. And the laugh echoes from the sink drain. Outside, the street looks unchanged, but the pigeons refuse to step on a patch of sidewalk the size of a doormat, circling it in a jittery ring. I draw a line of salt and step over. The air sharpens, like biting into tin. The doorbell rings once and then once more from inside the house. On the mirror, someone presses a fingernail and leaves a bright line as if the glass were soft. The voice asks a simple favor: one open door, one spoken name, one look directly into the dark. I stuff my hands into my pockets to keep from obeying. The pockets grow colder than the room, and something in them smiles. Night returns earlier than the weather said it would, a folding of hours like paper. The lamps fail, and then glow again with a color no bulb should make, a bruised purple that licks the corners. I set a chair under the attic hatch and tell myself it is to keep it closed, not to climb. A draft presses my hair toward the ceiling as if gravity decided to rest. I count again, and the count goes wrong, leaping from 3 to 5. The missing number hangs in the air like a held breath. From above, a child's voice hums a tune I almost know. The radio answers with a second melody that locks into the first, and together they make words I cannot hear but feel in my teeth. I grip the chair and think of all the doors a person is given, and all the ones a person makes. Under my feet, floorboards tense like jaws. The hatch sighs a soft welcome. The chair tilts. The room leans to meet me. The final test is simple. The house goes quiet. No hum, no drip, no wrong heartbeat. Silence pushes like a weight, and under it I hear the softest scrape, the sound of something turning its face toward me. The phone blinks with a new file, recorded at a time the clock claims did not happen. I play it. There's only breathing and the faraway knock of someone asking to be let out from behind a wall. The last seconds carry a whisper that is neither inside nor outside the speaker. It says my name the way a person says a door's name when they have the right key. I look at the ceiling and see the impossible. The handprint stain now has fingerprints, small and large, layered like family photos. Between them, a fingertip drags and leaves a fresh, wet line toward the hatch. The number that went missing clicks back into place, and with it comes a soft, pleased exhale from above. The chair shifts without hands. Morning tries to rinse the night away, but the house keeps what it wants. I pour salt in a clean ring under the hatch and place the radio inside it like a small guard. The dial glows with that wrong purple and hums a tune that sounds like stairs counting themselves. I speak out loud, slow and steady, promising not to open anything, not to say any names, not to answer any knocks. The light in the hall flickers in a steady beat, 3 quick, 1 long, as if the bulb learned how to speak. In the bathroom, the mirror fogs without breath and writes a single mark, that same neat letter that cut the table. The windows show a sky that looks normal, but the glass is warm as skin. Every door, even the fridge door, seems to lean toward me just a little, curious. The handprint stain on the ceiling has spread thin like oil on water, and it shines when I look away. When I look back, it is dry as ash, and there is a new finger added, a tiny one, pressed beside the largest. I try the front door to prove I am free. The handle turns, the latch clicks, and the same street stands outside, wet and empty. But the air has the taste of pennies. I take 6 steps and hear my steps answer from a second set of feet that do not match my pace. The pigeons still circle that clean square, and I realize the square is now wider, like the ground itself is avoiding something. I call a ride, and the app shows a car that never moves, stuck 1 street over, yet I can hear its engine right beside me. A neighbor waves, mouth smiling, eyes off by a breath, and the wave lags, as if sent through a slow wire. The doorbell rings from inside my pocket. When I pull out the phone, the screen shows my front door live wide open, though it is shut in my hand. The stream tilts up to the hatch and holds on the seam. Somewhere behind me, wood inhales. The app ride cancels itself with a message arrival complete. Back inside, I search for a reason. Any old story that fits this shape. The kitchen cabinet hides a thin panel, and the panel hides a crawl space, and the crawl space hides a small metal box with a latch worn smooth by worry. Inside are photographs washed pale by time, faces turned to the camera with eyes scratched away by a careful hand. The letter etched on the table repeats on the back of each picture, that same clean curve, that same hunger for corners. A smell of wet soil rises when I lift the last photo, and the floor hums in a low note that matches the radio's glow. I trace the mark with my finger and feel a heat that is not from me. The room dims, not darker, just farther, as if the walls took a step back to watch. The hatch above gives a soft tap, not a knock, more like a finger testing a cake. The salt ring trembles in a tiny slide, as if the floor learned to breathe. I set simple rules like fence posts: no speaking the missing number, no answering mimic voices, no eye contact with anything seen only in glass. The house answers with its own rule: it will not let silence last. The clock hiccups back to the minute that keeps repeating, and the radio hum braids with a child's tune from the vents, forming a slow, steady call that makes my teeth ache. The phone camera opens again, but this time it shows an angle above the hatch, an angle no ladder could give, as if someone is holding the lens from the other side of the wood. I hold the phone at arm's length, trying not to blink. The stream shows a long hallway that is not mine, made of boards that look damp and soft, stretching away into a dark that bends. Something moves at that far end, but only when the audio peaks. I whisper no without using the word, and the stream writes a caption over the image, say it. I bring mirrors from every room and set them in a ring that faces inward, glass to glass, a simple trap made of eyes. Salt lines cross under them, like pale threads, and I place the box of scratched photos at the center. The air cools in a quick breath, and the glass fogs from the wrong side, words sketching in a slow, neat hand, Thank you for finding the door. I tell myself not to read it. But my heart speeds up like a metronome pushed by a nervous hand. The hatch unlatches with a click so small it could be a thought. Wind slides down in a thin ribbon and tastes like soil and old pennies. In the nearest mirror, behind my reflection, something leans down from a place that should be a void. It has no face, only the sense of one, the idea of pressure where eyes should be. The radio needle lands on a clear note I know too well. The tone a door makes when a key fits. The chair under the hatch lifts a hair. The circle of mirrors holds steady until the first whisper threads through the glass like a thin wire. It does not come from above or below, but from the space between reflections, where rooms multiply and never meet. The radio needle crawls to the far left and stays there, still glowing, a lighthouse stuck on one beam. The hatch breathes out a smell like wet wood heated by a match, sweet and raw. I test my rules by repeating them under my breath, and each rule comes back a half-second late, as if someone else is mouthing along from the other side. The missing number slides through my head, and I refuse it, and the refusal tastes metallic, as if I bid a coin. In the phone's black screen, I catch a crooked frame of the ceiling that does not match the real one. The stain pools a little deeper there, like a shallow bowl filling. I blink, and the bowl ripples. A soft scrape above the latch becomes a slow smile I can hear. The mirrors fog as one, and write a neat answer I did not ask open. I do the opposite of what the word wants. I tape the hatch seam with long strips that cross like bandages and stack books on the chair until it looks foolish and heavy. The house dislikes the weight. The house dislikes the weight. Nails complain the studs, a thin chorus of tiny teeth. In the kitchen, the thin panel that hid the crawl space shifts by itself, not opening, just flexing like a ribs. I hold the metal box of photos in both hands to keep them from shaking and study the scratched eyes, those careful ovals where sight should be. One picture shows the same ceiling stain long before this roof, the same shape, the same quiet curve of fingers. My throat closes on a thought that feels borrowed. This is not a visitor. It is a room that follows people. The radio tries a new trick, cutting the hum into syllables that form a word that is not mine and also is. The fridge door seals pop with a wet kiss, and the light inside burns blue. The air grows damp, expectant. In the hallway, the taped seam lifts a hair. I decide to bargain with the only thing the house respects: attention. I set a metronome app to the clock's wrong minute and let it tick loud in the living room while I sit beneath the hatch in steady stillness. I speak a small story in a low, even voice, the kind told to restless children on storm nights, ending each line with the same simple word so the air knows the shape of my breath. The mirrors shiver but hold. The salt dulls to gray as if it is tiring. The ceiling stain gathers itself and darkens until it looks like a pool under ice. From that pool, a sound rises like a mouth learning to form letters. It tries the shape of the missing number first and fails. Then it tries the shape of my rules and repeats them back in a kinder tone, like a nurse. The metronome ticks faster without my hand. The radio finds a pure note that hurts my molars. I close my eyes to steady the world, and in that short dark, the chair scrapes a patient inch. The doorbell rings with the soft patience of a guest who knows the house well. The peephole shows nothing but wet brick, yet the bell keeps time with the metronome, an agreement between machines. Then the voice comes, not from the ceiling now, but from the crack under the front door, low and familiar. The kind of tone a person uses when they want you to relax before the request. It says it is cold. It says the stairs outside are slick. It asks if I can spare a light, a towel, a name. It never says my name, but it pushes the shape of it through the wood until I feel my tongue lift. The mirror closest to the door tilts a breath and shows a reflection that is not mine, but looks like a memory trying to stand up. The tape on the hatch stretches until it thins to threads. Wind moves through the house without a window open, gathering in the hall like a crowd. I press my back to the door and count, and the missing number tugs at my teeth like a loose one. It ends not with a break, but with an understanding. The house wants the word I will not give. I want the door to forget me. So I feed it a different mouth. I angle 2 mirrors to face the hatch directly and tilt a third to catch their meeting point, a little V that eats its own light. The stain ripples as the reflections stack, and the pool looks deeper, then deeper still, until I can almost see boards curving down like a throat. The radio's glow cools from purple to a sick white, and the needle stops pretending to be a compass. I breathe in once, slow, and tell the air a name that is not mine. A soft, harmless word tied to no living thing. The metronome halts mid-tick. The tape slackens as if the wood has yawned. A wet whisper slips through the seam like a tongue tasting the trap. The house takes the bait, or the bait takes the house. The difference feels small. When the lights blink, the ceiling stain is gone. In its place sits a single wet print on the glass, fingertip to fingertip with mine. Morning finds the mirrors dry and clean, but the wet fingerprint remains, glossy as if newly pressed. I hold my breath and watch it bead, not fading, not running, just shining like a small eye. The house is quiet in a careful way, like a room after an argument where everyone listens for the next wrong word. The radio sits blank. No hum, no glow. Yet I can feel a note waiting under the skin of the air. The hatch does not bow, the tape hangs loose, and the chair looks harmless again, a tired prop after a show. I test the floor with slow steps, and the boards give back a soft answer. A yes, that is not consent but awareness. Outside, traffic sounds normal. Birds argue on a line. Rain gutters mutter. Inside, something counts my breaths and matches them, one behind. The clean square on the sidewalk widens in my mind until it feels like the shape of a mouth. I touch the glass near the print. The print is warmer than my hand. I take the box of photos to the brightest window and spread them in a grid, looking for a rule and list. Each scratched oval where eyes should be feels like a locked door. On the backs, the same letter appears again and again, a neat curve that could be a hook or a half smile. I try saying the letter out loud and the room tilts just a hair, as if the floor had agreed with me too quickly. The faucet opens itself to a steady thread. The water runs clear, then shades brown, then clears again. From the drain, a single bubble rises and pops with a sound that is almost a word. I flip the last photo and see a hallway that could be mine, only longer with a small figure at the far end turned away. In the glass of the window, a second hallway overlays the first, dark where mine is light. The radio clicks once, a dry throat clearing. The glossy print on the mirror grows a thin ridge, like a healed scar. I decide to speak to the house as if it were a person who has been given the wrong name. I offer a trade. I will not use the missing number, and it will not wear the voices of people I love. The room cools in a polite way, air moving without draft. The metronome app opens on its own and begins with a slow beat that matches my pulse, then steps one tick ahead, as if leading a dance. The mirror with the print fogs from its center outward, not with breath but with intention, drawing a new mark that crosses the first like 2 threads pulled tight. The hatch, still slack-taped, lifts a fraction and drops as if nodding. From the wall, something taps in a pattern that wants answering. I tap the table with the same pattern and it replies with one extra beat, a tiny correction. The floor swallows that beat and leaves only a faint sweetness, like dirt after rain. In the window, the dark hallway inches closer, board by wetboard. The front door tries a new trick. Without moving, it suggests open space, the way a painted arch suggests a passage. Gold curls under the threshold and carries a smell like keys held too long in a tight fist. The peephole shows no one, but my name hangs in the wood like a watermark. The bell does not ring. Instead, the fridge hums. Then the radio hums. Then the pipes hum, each finding the same note until the air feels solid with sound. The mirrors tilt by a breath, aligning their edges to catch the door in the corner of each frame. The glossy print, now crossed, gains a third faint curve beside it, as if a smaller finger pressed cautious and light. I say no kindly, as if to a child reaching for a stove. The sound thins and threads itself into the ceiling. The tape on the hatch curls away in the humid air and drops to the floor like snakeskin. Above the seam, dust turns in a slow halo, waiting. By nightfall, the house has learned my pace and steps in time. I move slow. It moves slow. I wait. It waits. I stand under the hatch and lift the mirror with the crossed print until the seam reflects back at me. In the glass, the dark hallway stands where the attic should be. Planks wet and patient, a bend ahead that shines like a throat. I whisper a small promise that is also a trap if it will seal the door behind it. I will look once, only once, and I will not speak. The radio wakes to a thin line of light. The floor warms as if under coals. The seam gives with a quiet sigh, not opening, only thinning until it looks like the edge of a page. In the mirror, something leans close. Not a face, only the pressure of a face. The crossed print blurs into a single shape, a door within a door, and then it dries to matte. The air loses the smell of pennies. The house exhales. Far away in the walls, a lock turns. The sound of that far lock turning does not end. It rolls back through the rooms in little clicks, like teeth counting teeth. The seam above is thin as a paper cut, and the air below it feels damp and kind, the way a hand feels before it closes. I test the floor with slow steps. No hum, no radio note, only the quiet of a held throat. I lift the mirror with the dried cross and angle it until the seam becomes a clean line of dark. It ripples once, as if a drop fell into a shallow pool. The metronome app stays closed, but I can still hear its ghost, a soft tick that does not need a screen. The rules I made sit in my mouth like stones, heavy and useful. I try a small trick I learned as a child to stop a nosebleed. I count backward without thinking of the missing number. The line of dark widens by a breath, please. The clean square on the sidewalk flashes in my head, bigger. Now, not a square at all, but a jaw. The house waits with me, patient. I bring a second mirror and set it to catch the first, making a narrow gate that only light can enter. The gate drinks that light and gives back a hallway that does not belong here. Boards wet as tongues, grain swelling and shrinking with a slow breath. I do not step. I do not speak. I listen for the tiny parts that tell the truth, the crackle of tape glue drying on the floor, the thin twitch of dust near the seam, the soft drip of water that is not in any pipe. A smell rises, not pennies now, not soil, but old wood cut with a dull blade. The phone vibrates once and shows no message, only the front camera, and in the preview my face looks 1 second behind my own. From the drain, the little bubble returns and breaks without sound. I set the radio in the mirror gate, like an offering, and turn the dial to nowhere. The needle hangs. The speaker gives a breath shaped like a word and stops. The line of dark smiles wider. The house nods in its frame. I think of shutting it, then think of what shuts itself when you try. The rules hold. So I make one more. I will offer a map with no place to arrive. I take the scratched photos and lay them in a line from the mirror gate to the far wall. Face up, eyes gone, letter marked like a hook tugging the same corner. The air cools as if the house leans in to read. The line of dark thickens and drips, a single bead that does not fall. It hangs and turns, slow as a seed in syrup. The bead shows the long hallway inside itself, and at the far end, a bend that gleams like a wet grit. I press my palm flat to the floor to feel the timbers. They are steady, but they are listening. From somewhere past the walls, a door closes in a gentle way, the way a hand closes a mouth. The radio gives one pulse that feels like a heart learning a new tempo. The bead pulls back into the line. The gate swallows the last of the room's light. My breath sounds too loud. It asks for a name without sound. Only pressure, the way a crowd asks by moving. I refuse with a picture. I hold the nearest mirror so that it reflects the trail of photos back into the gate. A long loop, a path that leads to itself. The dark line wrinkles like a smile that does not like being caught. The phone wakes to the live door camera by itself, and the door is open on the screen, but not in the world. In the feed, rain blows through a hallway that is not made for weather. A small shape stands at the bend. No features, just the weight of a person like a dent in a pillow. The caption writes one word: I cannot let in. I turn the phone face down. The metronome ghost returns at a kinder pace, and I breathe in time with it until my mouth forgets how to shape that missing sound. The line thins, not closing, only resting. A soft knock rolls from beam to beam above, moving away as if to fetch something. The room stands with me, ready. When it returns, it brings the kind of quiet that comes before someone says, I'm here. The thin line spreads corner to corner like a mouth ready to speak without teeth. The radio, trapped in the V, lets out a long breath that fogs both mirrors from the inside. Letters form? Not the letter from the photos, but another. A curve that closes and a line that cuts through. A mark that looks like a door drawn shut. I do not read it out loud. I do not tilt my head. I think of a word that means stay without meaning welcome. I hold that word where I keep the number I will not say, and I let my breath carry only that shape. The fog brightens as if a light were moving behind it, and then dims, and on the glass a new cross dries fast and flat, sealing one mark over another. The line of dark narrows like a thread pulled tight. From the long hallway beyond, the sound of steps fades not away, but deeper down. The house lets go of my breath. The mirror's clear. The seam holds. All day the seam holds. Thin as thread and stubborn as a knot, yet the house refuses to forget. The floor gives back a hush that answers each step, like footsteps trying to learn politeness. In the window, the clean square on the sidewalk has grown into an oblong that steals light from the edges, and passing shadows detour around it with the courtesy one gives a bruise. The mirrors stay clear. But when I look away, I feel them blink, a quick shudder as if something on the other side is taking careful notes. The radio won't glow, yet its speaker warms in my hand like a pocketed stone. From the vents, air moves without sound, a breath that wants a rhythm to follow. I keep my rules. No names, no missing number, no answers to voices that arrive already knowing the question. Around noon, the pipes clink 3 times in a pattern I refuse to repeat. The room admires my silence the way a cat admires a closed door. The admiration feels hungry. By evening, the house tries memory as bait. The door camera wakes to a feed I did not open, showing a porch that is not mine, a welcome mat with letters I almost recognize, rain blown in a slant I know from nowhere here. A soft tune floats from the hall, that half lullaby the vents favor. But now it holds a voice that rounds the notes, the way a person does when they mean comfort. The words are not words, only shapes pushed through old timber. Yet my chest answers before my head can refuse. I set the phone face down and talk to the boards instead, slow and even, offering the same bargain as before. I will not speak, and it will not wear the faces I keep inside my eyes. The lights dim a fraction and stay. From the ceiling, dust settles, as if someone had just left. The metronome ghost falters, then steadies. The seam tightens to a hair. A long, polite knock travels through the studs toward the back door and stops there, listening. Night leans in early, heavy on the roof, like soaked cloth. I give the house something else to hold circles upon circles, salt on the thresholds, chalk on the baseboards, mirrors reset to watch one another instead of me. The radio sits inside the V again, not glowing, only present, like a witness. The room cools in a sweet way that pretends to be relief. Then the counting begins. Not in numbers, but in small events spaced a heartbeat apart, a tick in the pipe, a twitch in the curtain, a soft click under the lamp, a breath against the back of my hand that evaporates the instant I search for it. Each wants me to supply the missing measure. I give it nothing. The missing number presses the back of my teeth like a swallowed laugh. Outside, the long, clean patch deepens to a color that refuses reflection. A wind moves through the house with no window open and stops at the mirror gate, as if reading a sign that says, "Wait." When the house finds it cannot make me speak, it speaks the room itself. The walls flex not outward, but inward, the way lungs do when someone tries to talk through a held note. The ceiling lowers by a finger's width and rises again shy of creak. The floorboards go warm, then cool, like hands learning whether to hold or let go. In the mirror gate, the knot hallway brightens as if a match were struck far down its throat, and the light moves toward me, without touching distance, as if the space between has been folded and wants one more crease. I take the box of photographs and set them on the threshold, not as a path, but as a lid. The scratched eyes watch nothing. The hooked letter repeats its quiet hunger. I whisper the word that means stay without welcome. The one I keep where the missing number goes. The radio answers with a single beat that lands square on my heartbeat and stops. Dust rises like a breath reversed. The answer comes as weather inside the wood. A fine rain begins in the seam. Not drops, but the idea of drops. A shimmer that dampens thought. The long, clean patch outside ripples once, and every street light on the block lifts its glow and sets it down again, as if nodding. Something walks the roof with careful, considerate steps, never hurrying, never pausing, as if measuring my patience. I let the sound pass over me and find the center where stillness lies. When the steps reach the eaves, the mirror gate fogs from within. Two soft lungs and lines cross themselves into a symbol I have not seen. A door drawn open and then shut on the same stroke. The house waits. I do not read. I do not tilt my head. I picture the porch that is not mine closing to a pinhole. I picture the hallway folding until it fits inside a single breath I will not take. The roof goes quiet. The seam dries. Somewhere behind the studs, a simple latch settles into place, pleased. Morning brings a quiet that isn't rest. It's the tight lid on a jar that holds moving air. The seam above has dried to a hair, pale as old thread, and the mirrors sit where I left them, edges lined like teeth that learned patience. The radio is only weight now, heavy for its size, but when I lift it, the speaker warms as if a slow breath were trapped inside. Outside, the clean patch has stretched long enough to pinch the street into two neat lanes of light. Anything that walks past skates around it with gentle care, the way people step around a child's chalk drawing. I keep my rules in my mouth, letting them melt into something simple. No names, no number, no answers. I try one last bargain. I will pack the glass away. I will untie the lines if the house returns to stillness that isn't waiting. Waiting. The window fogs once and clears. A nod or a shrug. The floor lifts a grain under my heel, then settles. The jar lid quiet tightens. Something in the studs smiles. The house tries rhythm as its final lure. Pipes tick in soft pairs, then pause, then tick again, laying out a path my pulse wants to follow. The lights hold steady, but the shadows breathe, filling and emptying with the kind of honesty darkness can afford. From the vents comes that gentle tune again, cleaned of all voice, pared down to a hum that could be whined in a bottle. A knock travels the baseboards corner to corner and stops beneath the hatch, patient as a hand laid on a sleeping shoulder. The phone wakes to the door camera and shows no door at all, only a long, wet corridor that ends in the now familiar bend. Still and shining like a held tongue. A caption doesn't appear, and the absence of words feels like a request made with better manners. I answer with the quiet I have learned, a quiet that has edges. The seam does not open, and yet the room deepens, the way a stage deepens when the backdrop is pulled away to reveal a second painted night. Decision arrives as the simple act of tidying. I stack the mirrors face to face, cloth between, like closing eyelids, and I sweep the salt into a paper fold that rustles like dry leaves. The scratched photographs go back into the metal box. The hooked letter stares up from the lid and means nothing if I refuse to let it meet. I carry each thing to the base of the hatch and arrange them in a square that suggests a door without giving one, corners shy of touching. The room cools as though grateful. The seam pales further, barely wood, barely idea. In the window, the clean strip narrows, color leaking back to the pavement as if shame found it. The radio sits in the center of the almost square and chooses one tiny sound, a click that could be a camera shutter or a tongue. I leave it there, a witness that won't speak. The house tests the edges with a small breath and finds them firm. Dust rises and settles. Undecided, something high in the rafters takes a step backward, polite. Night returns without ceremony, sliding into the corners as if it never left. I stand beneath the hatch and hold the word that means stay without welcome until it fills my mouth like a small, smooth stone. The floor warms under my feet, then cools, a last test that I do not grade. The seam thins to a pale crease, and then to nothing, not closing, simply no longer present in a way that can be spoken about. The almost square holds. The radio does not glow, but a scent rises from it like coil smoke, sweet and gone. The vents breathe once and stop. Somewhere in the walls, a latch slips home, with the shy pride of a job done well enough. The door camera shows only my closed door, boring as a door should be. I wait to be certain the waiting is over, and when the stillness remains, I say nothing. And because I say nothing, the room returns the favor. The dark holds its shape. The jar lid loosens. The house forgets me with care. Morning's ordinary noise returns. Distant traffic, a kettle's thin hiss, the kind of bird that sings like clearing a throat. The seam is simply wood now, the hatch dumb as painted sky. I open the window for air, and the smell that enters is only wet pavement. The clean strip outside is gone. The sidewalk wears itself again. I sweep, fold, box, shelf. The radio I slide into a drawer that sticks and then gives, the small resistance of an object that has learned to fit. The day passes and nothing knocks. I almost forget to check the phone, and when I do, there is one recording made at a time the clock swore did not exist. I play it. There is no voice, no hum, only the hush of a room that is listening to itself. And at the very end, a tiny click like a tongue learning a word it will not say. I close the drawer. The ceiling holds. On the inside of the glass where I cleaned and checked, a single dry print waits, crossed twice, level with my eye.